Hello and welcome back. It's me and Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hello, hello.
So today we're going to talk about the West Brom game because our footage got corrupted. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah,
And
it was not fun when I realized it when I was about to edit it, and then it was just like can't hear half of it. So,
yeah,
but it's all sorted now, so we're all good.
yeah. And the Everton game we'll move on to then later. And we'll have some controversial topics set up for today. Yeah, so let's start with the West Brom game. Good to get a win in the Prem. It's been a while.
Yeah, we finally broke the podcast curse where we never stop losing. Well, we'll get onto that in a while because we kind of lost, but yeah,
Well,
it was good
yeah,
to get a win. Good to get
uh,
3 points.
exactly. I think that was what was important. We hadn't got a win in quite a while. I think morale was down. And although it wasn't a very magical win, it was kind of the very Jose Mourinho type football. Well,
Yeah,
actually,
sort
no,
of just catching the team on the break, and
yeah,
well,
yeah.
we caught them on the break. Yeah, we did catch them on the break for both of our goals, really.
But I
Um,
think we were mostly the better team. We had more possession, more shots, etc.
yeah, it was good to see a performance where we actually dominated it with the stats, um, rather than just parking the bus.
Yeah. Um, I think Kane and Son back in the goals. Do you think Kane was rushed a little bit?
Um, I don't know. We've obviously seen Kane be rushed back before. Champions League final, obviously, but I'd say the medical staff kind of learned their lesson, um, from the last time to not rush him back. So hopefully not.
Yeah, because I mean, he didn't play against Everton, and we'll get onto that game in a little bit. But this game, I think we were better, a lot better. But I think it showed us how much of an impact, just people just moving around has on the game.
Yeah, the movement was very important. Um, just players moving off the ball. It creates chances, it creates space, and it confuses the defense, um, of the opposition. So yeah, it was definitely an improvement on on Chelsea and Liverpool as well, where we didn't really move at all. We weren't moving off the ball, and we were creating chances.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that Serge Aurier got injured, and it doesn't seem to be something very serious, but it's obviously not great. Our two best defenders are out. And so Eric Dyer's not been in the lineup now. He wasn't in the lineup against Everton as well. But what do you make of that? Do you think Mourinho's resting him, or do you think he's sort of lost a bit of faith in him?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest, because Dyer's played a lot of minutes this season, and he hasn't previously played sort of this many minutes in a season. He hasn't been as consistently, playing in the side. Um, but also his performance against Liverpool was very bad. Sorry, but it is. Um, gave away a penalty. Oh, sorry, that's Chelsea. Never mind. Sorry,
Chelsea, yeah,
not Liverpool.
Chelsea.
Um, but against Chelsea, obviously, he gave away the penalty, and that kind of cost us the game. Um, but whether it's just a rest, obviously, rested him for West Brom, and then he rested quotation marks, um, against Everton, as well. So whether that's something to do with the penalty or his poor performance, or just he needs a rest, we'll probably find out. Whether or not he plays against City, I don't know. Probably not, because Sanchez is in the form of his life, even though he kind of was at fault for one of or two of the goals against Everton. But we'll get onto that in a minute. But
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Dyer is there's probably a bit of mental fatigue. Obviously, what he's been through in his whole career of not playing and then being really consistent and then just not playing, and I think it's all just probably halfway through a season where he's probably been one of our most consistent players, apart from obviously Kane and Son. There's probably an aspect of mental fatigue that's kicking in now.
yeah, definitely. That sort of up and down in terms of minutes is definitely not a good thing for a player. You want to be playing consistently, and he hasn't really done that. So yeah, I feel, whether he plays or not, He's certainly a good footballer, but is he the level that we want him to be at? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we have a kind of second defender, if you like, in Toby Alderweireld and and Eric Dyer, but we need that. We still need one main centre back who kind of leads the pack, and we just don't have that because Toby Alderweireld is getting a bit older now, and Eric Dyer just isn't at that kind of level because he hasn't been playing at that level for as long as maybe other players.
Yeah, and also another factor is Eric Dyer's not a centre back. He became a centre back from a midfielder. He's like Fabinho.
No,
So
but I think he wanted to play centre back from
yeah,
within.
yeah, I understand that he wanted to play centre back, but is he like well, he's certainly able to play centre back, but is he able to play centre back at a top level?
But
I don't
that's
know.
an interesting point. Obviously, he is now 27 years old.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's the thing as well. He's not exactly young, so I'd rather play a young player for him to make mistakes than a 27-year-old in his prime to make mistakes, because at least the young player can learn and become, you know, and can mold into a great player.
yeah, I think. Do you think Joe Rodon can be that player? Do you think if say we bring in Skriniar or Pamecano or Kanate or anyone like that, do you think Rodon can be that centre back pairing with them, or do you think there's still time? Like you probably still need to play Dyer and Alderweireld.
Um, I'm not sure because I haven't really seen enough of Roden yet. And he's only played like 3 games this season, and that was against Sheffield and like Chelsea, um, and Liverpool as well. But you know, we're sort of yet to see what Roden can really do. He's shown glimpses of, um, a quality player is in there, but he's certainly not at the same level as the players you mentioned. Your Skriniars, your Canades, your Macanas. But he might be able to become one of those players, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. The potential is there. I
Yeah,
think Jose
exactly.
Mourinho said after one of his games that he's not a coward. He goes to challenges. He doesn't back out. But does that sometimes worry you about then positional awareness?
Definitely. If you're too committed to a challenge, you can be caught out positionally. Which happened a few times against teams like Liverpool, where their front three and their midfield are so intelligent, and they know how to play essentially. Um, and yeah, he was caught out a few times against Liverpool, but that just comes with learning. That just comes with experience. He's still young. He's only 22, 23. So um, that'll just come with time and experience and minutes on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, he played an exceptional game. He played exceptionally when he was at Swansea. Obviously, Championship is a different beast altogether, but it just shows that he does have what it takes. I think. Jaffet Tanganga is also very young, 21 years old. So there are players there that are not have they just haven't reached their prime yet.
Yeah, they haven't had the minutes to reach their full potential yet because we've been playing players like Dyer and Alderweireld and Sanchez, which isn't a problem. It's just the young players aren't getting enough experience to become one of those players.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, there's quality of centre backs in the squad, although they're all kind of the same quality, like Alderweireld, Eric Dyer, and Sanchez. So it's tough for then Rodon to go in and get minutes, especially when he's not in Europa League and he's cup tied and all that kind of stuff. So if we move on then there to Everton, obviously this was a cracking game.
Absolute roller coaster. It felt like up
Wow,
and down in terms of emotions.
we had 29 shots that game.
Oh my god, you only scored 4.
Yeah, we had 12 on target. The thing with that game was, I think there came a point we were really lively in the 20th minute, up to the 20th, 30th type minute. And then from after that, it kind of fell apart, let's say.
Yeah,
From
I mean, we scored our first goal. Um, that was sort of early on in the match, and then all of a sudden it was 3-1, So we kind of fell apart in that 10-minute period where they scored 3 goals. But then we were able to fight back. We got back to 3-3. But then it was 4-3 to them. Then Kane came on, scored 4-4, and then we crumbled again. So it was sort of an up and down feeling of, we could win this or we've got no chance. And that's not really what I want to experience as a fan. I want to be confident that we're either going to win or we're going to lose. Obviously, I don't want to be confident that we're going to lose, but
if you look at all the top teams like City, Liverpool, when they do lose, it is not very convincingly. And I think that's what I kind of enjoyed about this performance. We lost, but it wasn't very convincingly.
Exactly. You couldn't really walk away from that game and say Everton deserved to win. They were by far the better team. It was such an even game. Obviously 9 goals, but the fact that both teams, we didn't have 80% possession or anything. We had 57%, which isn't exactly domination. And Everton were just they caught me off guard. Really, they were quite good. Which is concerning because we're playing Everton, I think, soon in the next few weeks. So, it could be a cause for concern, or it could be just a learning curve. We don't know yet.
I think with Kane and Son on the pitch, it makes a big difference. When Kane came on, obviously, he had a big impact on, what happened in the game, and he came on and he scored really, and that just shows he took 4 touches before that.
Yeah, it definitely shows his influence on the team. He's able to create, he's able to shoot, he's able to do everything. He's the perfect striker, essentially, is the phrase that I would use, because he can do everything that you'd want in a striker. When scouts look for strikers, they look for, shooting, passing, creativity, dribbling, etc. And Kane's got all of them. So he's definitely a great asset to have, and obviously Son benefits off that. When Kane's not on the pitch, you can see the sort of difference between Son when Kane's on the pitch and Son when Kane's off the pitch. There's a certain decrease there, and that's what I think Vinicius needs to be able to do. I know he's not that, he's a completely different player, but if we, obviously Vinicius is only on loan, but if Vinicius doesn't work out, we need to find a striker who can do the same as Kane, pass, shoot, be creative for a cheap enough price, almost like a Poundland Kane. He can do what Kane can do, just not to the same level that Kane can do them, if you understand what I mean, because that would
but it's
definitely benefit Son's performances.
I think when we look at a striker, then would you then play Ndombele and Giovanni Lo Celso? Let's say Vinicius was playing. Would you play 2 creators like that, and 1 pivot in Højbjerg?
I would love to see that 3-man midfield of Ndombele, Lo Celso, and Højbjerg as the sort of pivot, as he said, because that allows the creativity from Ndombele and Lo Celso, and then Son as well, and whoever is playing at right wing, to create for not just Vinicius but everyone else in that sort of 4-man, 5-man sort of area. And then you've got Højbjerg, who can shore up the defence, and then you can push the fullbacks up as well, especially Reguilon, who's he's got a great cross on him, and he's a great passer, and he's obviously great going forward as well. So we do have a lot of creative attacking assets. It's just the way we need to use them and rotate them.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. What I liked about yesterday's game, though, was we were very slick. We were very Man City-esque kind of football, and it was interesting to watch because although we hadn't done it in a while, and obviously we were bound to be rusty at keeping the ball, we were better.
Yeah, there was a few stages in the game where we were like prime Barcelona. We were just tiki taka everywhere, and then I realised it's Spurs. But yeah, we were definitely playing sort of silky football. One touch passing on the ground. We were able to bring the ball up quickly, and there was some good stages in that game. Um, yeah, I think this performance, while we obviously lost the game, it's definitely looking something to look upon and say, well, hold on, this kind of worked. We scored 4 goals. I know we conceded 5, but most of them were down to sort of individual errors and quality Everton attackers. So the fact that we scored 4 goals against a defense which is certainly, I would say, in form this season, is definitely a bonus for not just player confidence but overall team confidence as well.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of positives to take from the game. That moves me on to my next question then. Do you give Jose time, or do you say Jose, it's time to go?
My opinion is give him to the end of the season. If he gives us a trophy, brilliant. And we'll discuss it at the end of the season. Whether the performances were up to scratch, what games we won, what games we should have won that we lost, etc., etc. If he doesn't deliver a trophy, bye bye. There's nothing you can say about that. We're in a Carabao Cup final against City, obviously, which is a bit of an issue, but we beat City at home. Obviously, since then they've gone on, I believe, the longest winning streak in the history of the top flight. So
that is correct. 15
wins.
Nice. Great to hear when we're about to play them.
But yeah, obviously the Europa League as well. We should at least get to the semi-finals. We have the quality in our squad to get to the semi-finals. I know there's teams like Man United, Leicester. I was going to say Arsenal there for a second. They're not quality. Real Sociedad even. Ajax don't really have goalkeepers, so they don't really count. But there is quality size in the Europa League, but I think we're better than all of them easily. We beat United 6-1. Leicester's a bit questionable, but they'll probably be worn out by the end of the season like they were last season.
Yeah, I think that's bound to happen, especially if we get a few good draws and the other teams don't. I think the amount of effect that they'll have them not only in the league, but we'll be able to rotate. Let's say we get another team like Wolfsburg. I know for certain Jose Mourinho, because it's 2 legs. The first leg he is not going to play Kane, and maybe not Son either. He's gonna rotate. He's gonna give someone younger a chance because he knows that. Let's say worst case scenario, we lose this 1-2-0. We still have the quality to go out in the second leg and win.
Yeah, exactly. What people don't really realize is we have a massive squad in that we have so many players in so many positions. Like we have, goalkeeper is probably our weakest position because we've got Lloris, who's a World Cup winner and a 2-time Premier League winner. I know Joe Hart's passed it and he's not exactly good, but to have a 2-time Premier League winner on your bench who's won goalkeeper of the year in the Premier League for 4 times, it's definitely a bonus, especially in the dressing room as well. But to have the ability to rotate, if I was Mourinho, I would play quite a strong team against Wolfsburg or whoever they are in the no disrespect, in the first leg, and then in the second leg, if we've won say 4 or 5-0, throw out someone like Devine, throw out someone like Dane Scarlett. Even I saw Marcel Lavinier, the right back. He was in Chelsea's academy last season. He's been named in a sort of provisional Europa League squad for academy players. So if we throw those players out in a second leg where we're practically guaranteed to win the game, or to win the tie, should I say, then that'll be a huge bonus, not just to the young players, but to the sort of more experienced players because they'll get a rest.
Yeah, and I think in each game we probably have to look at who we're playing next. And if we look at my opinion on Jose, I think for me, I don't think he's going to win the City game. And I don't think the Wolfsburg game is a good game to judge his abilities on, because
I agree.
For me, if I was Daniel Levy and and I went up to Jose and I asked him, "What are you gonna play against? I don't know, City. What are you gonna try play? Are you gonna play defensively? Or are you gonna play offensively?" When it comes to City, obviously we are going to we're going to have to park the bus. There's not even going to be much of a choice there. But then when it comes to West Ham, that's the game I'll be very interested to see. And I think if he parks the bus in that, I think for me, it's probably time to go for him, because you could see that when he did go attacking yesterday, the players had the quality. Like they're still the same players that were playing under Pochettino. They have the quality to go out there and do the one touch fancy stuff. And because Jose Mourinho's here, they probably have the quality to defend a bit as well that we
Yeah,
probably didn't have under Pochettino.
yeah, I agree. I would much rather watch last night's performance and lose than park the bus and draw. Um, you know, I've said it before in this podcast. I love Leeds. Okay, I love the Leeds. I love the way Leeds play. You know, yeah, we might not defend better than you, but we'll outscore you. And while it can be risky, I think our overall squad is obviously a lot better than Leeds's. So we should be able to do something similar to that. Obviously, we're going to have to defend. That's obvious. But even just play, attacking for, an hour, go out, win the game, done, dusted, 3 points, get like a 3-0 win, and then sort of shut up shop. That would be something that I would be willing to buy into, because the first 60 minutes we're able to, score goals. And if they, score when we parked the ball, I know West Ham is an exception, but that was,
Yeah, that's an exception.
that was a freak incident. Okay. Um, if they say score, then just attack again.
Because
It's
I think under Mourinho, I thought against the Chelsea game we kind of lost the ability to attack. Because
yeah, they sort of like passed. Chelsea just passed it around, and we weren't able to get the ball because we weren't moving enough. If he tells his players to, move, we'll win the ball and we'll be able to score a goal, because we've got the attacking talent to do that. I know we were missing Kane, and that's an exception, but even against Chelsea, Vinicius was great. He just didn't get the ball enough. There was about 4 or 5 opportunities where he was, in a great position to score, but no one was giving him the ball because they were lazy. They were sort of, walking around on the pitch with the ball, and they weren't able to give the ball to him, even though he was in, a clear cut chance on goal. So, if we're able to move with the ball and play sort of fluid attacking football, we'll win games. We'll roll teams over like Man City are doing.
yeah, I mean, Man City come up and they start scoring and the floodgates open. Really, let's just hope that doesn't happen to us. So here's
Yeah,
my next
hopefully not.
question to you: do you think we missed an opportunity there with Tuchel? Do you think Chelsea got him, and do you think we should have got him maybe a bit earlier?
Um, I don't think so. I I think we should wait. I don't think we should sack Mourinho now. Um, I think we should wait until at least after the Carabao Cup final, because if we bring a new manager in, he's only got like, when's the Carabao Cup final? April.
April 25th April, I believe.
Yeah, so he's got about 2.5 months to learn everything about his squad, and then he's playing a final. So that's like what, 7, 8, 9, 10 games to fully learn his best 11, and then all of a sudden, oh no, I'm in a final in a team that hasn't won a trophy in 13 years. Whereas Mourinho, he knows his squad, and he's a winner. Tuchel's only won stuff in PSG. My dog could be manager of PSG and he'd still win the league.
Like,
Not
no
disrespected
disrespect.
French football, but I mean, come on, you got Neymar and Mbappe, mate. You're not the second coming of Christ. But I personally wouldn't have gone for Tuchel unless we sacked Mourinho. But I wouldn't have sacked Mourinho to get Tuchel, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. You think Mourinho is probably better than Tuchel?
I think so, yeah.
So,
Just
but do you think that bounce maybe would have helped us a lot? Like, let's say if we get a new manager now, do you think we have the potential to get that bounce? And then,
it depends on what manager we appoint. Like, we're not going to go and get Nagelsmann mid-season. We're not going to go and get Brendan Rodgers mid-season. And realistically, they're the two managers that we kind of want. because they play attacking football, and we're not going to be able to get them because it'll come to the end of the season then, when the season's finished, and then they'll sort of those managers will look over their performance and say, well, hold on, we weren't great, so I'm going to a team which has a lot more money than I do, and I'm going to spend some money. I'm going to build a big team and build up my resume.
Yeah, I think that's what we probably need to do because there are players who are decent, but I don't think they're, you know, as good as we need them to be. I'm talking about like Aurier, Winks, um, even Eric Dyer for that matter. These kind of players they should be backup players and they shouldn't be playing every week. But we're at a stage now where we have depth, but not, and they are just as good as each player on the pitch. But the depth and each player on that pitch is just, we need a few more of those Kane, Son quality players, and probably in defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need. I think we're. Jamie Carragher said it about a year ago. With Pochettino, we're about one signing away from winning the league. Now we're about 4 or 5, and now I think it's probably a bit more than that. We've sort of, it's like a mountain, our progression. It goes up and up and up, and then the peak is the Champions League final, and then it just goes down and down and down and down and down. But I think the players that we need to sign that need to be better than the ones that we have, if in order to win a league or even the Europa League. I know we're in the Europa League and we've got a decent shot of winning it, but to comfortably win it and comfortably get into the Champions League, we'd need a right back, a centre back, probably another midfielder, right winger, and even a goalkeeper. Lloris isn't exactly young anymore. He's 34, so he's probably going to be gone in the next 2 years. Which is obviously unfortunate to say because I love Lloris, but it's just the way football works.
Yeah. Goalkeeper wise, yeah, I didn't really think of that position because he's got he's been so consistent in the past 9 years really.
Yeah, he's been like one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, if not the world. Obviously won a World Cup for France. But if he leaves without winning a trophy with Spurs, it's just going to be heartbreaking because he's been here, 2012, I think he joined from Lyon, and he's gone that long without winning a trophy, and yet all he can win is with France. It'll be a bit demoralising for your personal career.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think he with the Everton performance, I don't think he'll be very happy. Because, but I don't think he should be that sad either. I think it was some tough saves to make. Maybe could have the Calvert-Lewin one. Maybe shouldn't be falling back into his goal. Be a bit stronger with the ball. But I think overall, it shouldn't have come to that really.
Yeah, I think other than the Calvert-Lewin goal, he shouldn't really take the blame for any of the goals. There wasn't really much he could have done about them. But I mean, every goalkeeper makes mistakes. Look at Alisson, the other day against City.
That was incredible.
2 mistakes in the space of like 5 minutes. And he's arguably the best goalkeeper in the league. So, every goalkeeper makes a mistake. And, he's definitely an experienced professional. He knows what it's like to make a mistake, especially at a big stage. I'm thinking of, World Cup final.
Yeah, I was thinking of that as well.
But I think if we were going to replace Lloris, we'd need someone of the age that we got Lloris at, so around 25 or 24, just so we can have that sort of same substitute with Lloris, in that we have him for 10 years and then he leaves and then we do it again and then we do it again, because that's the most sort of sustainable way of keeping a goalkeeper. Obviously, we don't do something like Kepa, as in buy him for like 70 million when he's worth about 40.
If that, there's Donnarumma, and I think his contract is close to being up.
Yeah, I've heard about that, but I've also heard he's in discussions with AC Milan, and also, why would you come to Tottenham right now when you're at AC Milan?
I think
That's
there's still, but I still think there's a certain amount of prestige of the Premier League and the fact that yeah, there's been 2 seasons, but if you could convince a player by saying you are part of a rebuild, like we are rebuilding this team. He's only 21. I'd say he could like
I
you
mean,
know
yeah. I mean, there's no question that he might not um want to stay at AC Milan, and he might want to come to the Premier League, and he might want a new challenge. But um, I don't know. If I was looking for a goalkeeper, I'd look at the likes of sort of your Dean Hendersons, your Strakoshes at Lazio, your even Pau Lopez. He was at loan with us a few years ago, and he didn't play a single game, and now he's crushing it at Roma. So um, I don't know. I'd look for that sort of. Obviously, Donnarumma is much better than all of them, but there's no guarantee that you'd be able to get Donnarumma. Obviously, there's no guarantee that you'll get any player. Um, every player has their own reasons for not choosing to play and whatnot. But yeah, I think the goalkeeper spot is definitely it's an easy position to buy for, but if you get it wrong, it's so difficult to find a replacement.
yeah, especially if you're spending big money, like the Chelsea blunders. Uh, I think we need to find someone who's an upcoming kind of goalie and someone who's
Yeah,
kind of
I agree.
cheap. We need if we don't get Champions League qualification, which I don't think we will. Maybe if we win the Europa League, but if you look at our the money that brings in and the TV money that brings in, I think we'd probably have to stick with Lloris for another season and wait and take that risk. Because we will need the money to buy it in other positions.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying sell Lloris in the summer. I don't think we should sell Lloris in the summer.
No, no,
Um,
but as in like slowly transition him out, if you know what I
yeah,
mean.
exactly. Buy in a goalkeeper maybe not this summer but the next, and then sort of slowly graduate them in.
And we've seen all our defensive problems this year. There was very strong, you know, links to Milan Skriniar, and the fact that he did accept personal, terms,
Mm-hmm.
but it was the 50 million. There's a £10 million difference in valuation. Do you think that if we had gone for that, how big of a miss has that been then?
It's definitely been a big miss because our centre backs haven't been exceptional this season, and someone like Skriniar he's that sort of player who can change the game, a bit like Ruben Diaz. Um, I actually think we should have gone for Ruben Diaz, but we wouldn't have been able to pay the £60 million that Benfica wanted. But yeah, I think we should go for Skriniar in the summer. I know we're going to try and go for Skriniar again in the summer, but yeah, I think we should definitely go for someone of the caliber of Skriniar. Young and world class. Someone like a Skriniar, your Canada, your Upamecano, those type of players, that little pool of players. I think we should be dipping into that um, to find our future sort of centre back.
Yeah. So then, would you say centre back is the main position? The main target to go for in the summer.
Um, Personally, I think it's between three. I think it's between centre back, right back, and right winger. Right back only because REA, he can be world class one game, i.e. Man United, or awful and gives away a penalty in the next. But you know, and then obviously right winger, Gareth Bale has been sort of underwhelming, we'll say. But he hasn't got the minutes that he sort of requires to be able to be that sort of player. And then Bergwijn, I'm still not overly convinced by Bergwijn, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's got everything that someone like Ericsson did. Um, and then Lamella, Mora, mm, mm, they've been good, but are they good enough to carry the team in 5 years? No, they're both 28, so that's a bit of a worry.
I think probably our strength is creativity, but the issue right now is all the creative players are kind of injured or not playing. I'm talking about Dele Alli or Giovanni Lo Celso. Those kind of are two. They're two very strong players, and I know Dele Alli hasn't played, but I think when he does play, like I remember when I was watching the game, what was very surprising is even though he hasn't played in so long, Dele Alli, he played a pass that was kind of very good. It was a very good pass, very insightful is probably the right word. It went unnoticed. It went to the right player, and I think it was Bergwijn or something. Shot, nothing happened. But it was that kind of the creativity that what's in his mind is still there, you know.
Yeah, definitely. With a player like Dele Alli, he's never going to sort of lose that creativity. Um, form. They say form is temporary, class is permanent. I think that applies to Dele Alli. Obviously, he's not been playing this season. Whether that's a problem with Mourinho off the pitch or just his performances on it, we don't know. But he I don't think he'll ever lose that sort of spark of creativity. But you know, it's difficult to find. We have so many creative players, as you said, but they're not sort of converting their creativity. If you understand what I mean. All of our
Yeah,
front
yeah.
three is creative, but we're not scoring. So
Because of the youth in Bergwijn, do you think maybe if we keep playing him and keep pushing his confidence, do you think then in maybe 1 or 2 years he can be the player that we saw against in his first game against Man City and a goal scorer for lack of a better word?
I mean, I think he's still a good player. I think in some astronomical university he could be a great player or a world class player. But is he that yet? Not really. But I agree with what you say in that if he plays more and he gets more confidence and he gets a few goals, he'll that sort of confidence train will be churning and it'll keep going and it'll keep going and it'll keep going. And he'll start putting out great performances like the ones that we saw against Man City.
Yeah, I think for me it's difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel right now because I don't think the guide is Mourinho anymore. For me, I think yeah, maybe give him to the end of the season, but we need a rebuild, and I don't think he's the manager to do the rebuild with.
I agree. I think we should sort of, clean out all the dead wood. Players like Gazaniga's not going to play again, realistically, because of the foreign player rule. Um, and just clear out, all the sort of older players that we don't need. We don't have a lot of old players, but players that we sort of don't need. Just get them out. Get 10, 15 million for them, even would be great, and then bring in new players in that sort of young mold. Because we need a young sort of core of our team, and we already have that. But in Dombele, Bergwijn, Rodon, Regulon, etc., etc. But if we have these players who are sort of very young and almost very experienced in a way, because they played a lot of football, and obviously the quality on the pitch is what matters. If we have that, we can definitely go and challenge for things like the Premier League or an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup, or even down the line if those players hit their prime, maybe we might see a Champions League. Who knows? It just depends on what players we buy.
Yeah, I think what was interesting though is Bergwijn when he hit 23 years old. Since he's hit 23 years old, he's experiencing, one hell of a dip. And I've seen so many players go through that, That do you think it is a dip, or do you think it's just a lack of inexperience?
Um, you see, with Bergwijn, he's played a lot in his career. Obviously, he started very young at PSV. Um, he started playing regularly when he was like 18, 19. So he's played a lot of football for a 23-year-old. And that sort of, burnout is the word I would use, is kind of normal for a player like that. That's why you say, teams like Arsenal, who are over reliant on their young players, your Sakas, your Smith Rowes, your players like that, Tierney, etc. They're going to burn out because they've played so much football at a young age. Saka became a starter at 18 years old. That's not good for a player because he's still a teenager. He's still molding his body, and the same happened to Wayne Rooney. Look at him now; he's a manager, and he's younger than Ronaldo. He's playing at Derby. He sort of became, he left Man United when he was 28. So, and that's because he started playing regularly when he was 16. So, if we play players who are relatively experienced, not overly experienced, if you get what I mean,
Yeah,
they can start a game, but they're happy to come off the bench because they're still young. If we get
yeah.
that kind of player where we can rotate with the sort of experienced players we've got, that's what creates the sort of team mold that we need.
So then that kind of brings me to the final question, I think, on Harry Winks. Do you think he's experiencing that kind of blowout because of how much he played, or do you think he's maybe not the player to move forward with in the future?
It's a good question. The thing about Winks is, as soon as you doubt his ability, he puts in a great performance. And it's sort of difficult to judge him because he's quite an inconsistent player. So, he can put in a great performance, but then the next game he's sort of, average and he just goes, side to side again. Um, I don't know whether he's experiencing that sort of thing. He's what, 24, 25?
25, yeah.
So
25 as of last week, actually, February 2nd.
all right. But yeah, there's definitely a better alternative to Winks, and I've heard there's a report came out today that Jose Mourinho is strongly considering starting Skip regularly when he comes back from his loan to next season.
If
And
Mourinho will even be there next season.
pardon?
If Mourinho will even be here next season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's another question entirely, but I think it's good to see managers trusting Skip because Pochettino did it on a rare occasion, but he goes. But as soon as he's gone out on loan, he's been fantastic for Norwich. He's
Yeah.
been, I think he won Championship Player of the Month. He certainly won Norwich Player of the Month. Um, but yeah, he's been outstanding for them in the Championship. And I know Championship's a different game entirely, but you've seen players come up from the Championship this season, especially for Villa. Watkins, Cash, and then the newly promoted teams, Leeds, all of their players, etc., etc. The Championship is a great breeding ground for Premier League players, and the fact that Skip is playing so well in the Championship is definitely a good sign for his development.
Yeah. He won September Player of the Month, I can confirm, for the championship.
There you go.
Quite an achievement. Yeah, so I think we'll leave it there. Um, yeah. Do you have any other comments?
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything that we need to cover anyway.
Yeah. Um, and I guess we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
Thank you.